It's time to get the meat of the conference going. Remember your hashtag growing events, and I'd like you to get ready to put your hands together to welcome our birthday girl, Dr. Laurine Platzky, who's our Deputy Director General Strategic Programs for the Department of the Premier, as she talks to us about the Cape of Great Events, past, present, and future. All yours, Laurine.
Hi, everyone, and sorry about that very long session, which is going to lead into my session now. So I've been asked to talk about where we all came from, and this really, let me tell you, was the World Cup in 2010. We decided at the end of that period of time that we had learned so much, so many lessons, so many contacts were made globally, that it was the only thing to do was to take it forward into the long term. Otherwise, that opportunity would have just been a nice to remember, as you all remember. Some people say, well, the Vuvuzela is not. But so we wrote a 15-year strategy with the city of Cape Town, and it was adopted by our cabinet in 2011. So let's just look at what you all know. The people sitting in this room are really the meat of it all, whether they are the organizers, the facilitators, the sponsors, etc. It takes a whole big family of diversified people, as you've heard from the introductions, to get this going. But this is the picture. And we're very happy that this is really growing not only in the city of Cape Town, but beyond the borders, right out into quite far-flung areas. I think even some of those people are here today. So we have a really amazing, diverse range of events. And many countries have, cultural events, and they have all those organized in one space, and then the sporting events in another place. No, we do it together because we know that we are much more than the sum of the parts. So where did it all start? Well, the Om-Tom. 1970, the world's most beautiful marathon sets off for the first time. Fantastic. Then we moved to the Cape to Rio. Remember those days where we used to sort of stand up on Duval Drive and watch the yachts going out, and really exciting. 1971, the yachts departed our shores on the 5,800-kilometer journey to Rio for the first time. Then another sports one, which is, has been rebranded over the years. So we now have the Cape Town Cycle Tour, but it started 1978, and Chappies is conquered for the first time on two wheels. Then we moved to the Klein Karoo, and there we have 1994. 1994, very important year in this country. Also a year in which Afrikaans found renewed cultural expression and warmth. Very, poignant moment in our history. Then, as you heard a little while ago, the Design Indaba. 1995, Cape Town is introduced to a better world through creativity. So the foundation was in place. By 1995, the Western Cape had a reputation as an events and tourism destination and was ready to step up to the notch to say that we can run mega events. So we hosted part of the Rugby World Cup, the CAF. This is part of, Western Cape's contribution in South Africa. And, let's take the technology through. South Africa hosted 16 African countries, although we didn't host any of those games in the Western Cape. And then, of course, we bid for the Olympics in 2004, and that was a huge learning curve. There were a lot of very, very important lessons learned. How do we work together, public and private sector, all kinds of things, including infrastructure that was built that is still very much used today. So that was not a lost opportunity by any means. Then you'll all remember the Cricket World Cup, where we hosted 5 of the matches in the Western Cape. And then the Indian Premier League, you might remember that they moved it for security reasons to South Africa because we were a safer destination. And then the big one, where we hosted 8 matches, and we also hosted 3 teams in base camps, and that was in the Southern Cape. So, we have learnt a lot over the years, and as you have heard, I've been around an awfully long time. And Rashid is not the only one to remember that. There are many familiar faces around here, that we really need to build on the intellectual property that we have over the years. We have a 15-year strategy. We're 1/3 of the way through, and we need to keep building on that. We need to keep sharing those lessons, particularly, very excitingly, with the incubators, with the new events that are coming up. So that 15-year strategy, copies of it outside if you haven't seen it. There are also electronic copies online. And what we're doing now is taking the lessons learned. So we have lessons, as I said, even from the failed opportunities, which was the 2004, the Olympic bid. We have a lot of very important lessons from our successful opportunities. People who said globally, they'll never be able to do it. Remember, the World Cup, it was going to be a disaster, nothing would be ready on time, it would be dangerous, etc., etc. Who says that kind of thing about us globally today? So we've built a brand. We've built a brand of capability. We are on time. We work well together. We get over our differences. We discuss our differences. We have a range of public and private partners in all this, which is the way to go. The Western Cape government talks very, very strongly about the whole of society approach and the importance of partnerships. And as was mentioned a little bit earlier, this is a major part of what's now known as Project Khulisa, which is growing the Cape in terms of tourism in particular, agri-processing, oil and gas. These are all the very important sectors of our economy. But this one, where we're talking today, is, as our co-hosts today said, the importance of showing that we do business well in this part of the world, and people then come back for leisure. They come back with their families, and the younger they start coming, the longer they come back to the Western Cape. So let's take today to remember the big picture. What are the lessons we've learned? Collaborative partnerships are critical. Thorough planning is essential. Things do not just happen. I've been invited to go to Russia. I'm going in a couple of weeks' time to go and share the lessons learned of our World Cup, the 2010 FIFA World Cup, with the Russians. They want to know about legacy. And my first question is going to be, this is the end of 2016. Your World Cup is in 2018. Do you know that we started 5 years before building legacy? It's a little bit late to start with your legacy, but I'll do the best I can to share the lessons that we've learned. So it's very interesting that other countries and other events are looking to us to learn lessons from our experience. Sound and consistent leadership. Now, it's very important that this is not a disputed task, and so we're very happy that our minister came today to open the event. This is not just one department or another department. This is the Western Cape government hosting this, but with other spheres of government, with, as I said, the private sector. A strategic approach to decision making. This is not just an operational space. Yes, Wayne is here. We have emergency medical services. We have to get the traffic controlled. We have to get the portaloos out. There are a lot of very, very practical things that have to be done in running an event. But unless you take a strategic approach, you don't grow it in the long term. And it's not easy to grow an economy, particularly in the global economy that we are experiencing at the moment. So it's very important to remember our strategy, to look back to see where the strategy needs revising and reviewing, which we will be doing this year. So a measurable positive impact. You'll also be hearing a bit later about our second round of impact assessments. We've taken that very seriously. We are not only doing the impact assessments, we're also pioneering the methodology, because as many of you may know, this has been quite a disputed territory, getting, whose methodology is going to be used. How do you compare this with that? How do you measure your media coverage? How do you measure what the sponsors want, etc.? So this is a very important area that we feel we are pioneering. The best other in the world that we can see is the Edinburgh Festival, or the Edinburgh Festivals. They have about 10 festivals, which they measure very, very in a lot of detail every year. And of course, they have many years to look back on. We're in our second year of that measuring. So now, 5 years later, we've reached a milestone in the life of our integrated event strategy for Cape Town and the Western Cape, and it's time to reflect, to review, and may I say, with the people in this room, definitely we're all here to boldly plot the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laurine, also to chat to us about the Cape of Great Events. CEO Westgrow, please welcome Mr. Tim Harris.
Thanks, Laurine, for that intro, and Minister, who just had to step out. And thank you all for coming. It's a really great thing to get introduced to everyone personally around the room. Paul, your comments about China, I was there the beginning of last month on a mission to get more air connectivity to Cape Town. Not necessarily to China, it's one of our priorities, but we were there because the big route negotiation conference was happening in China, and we're making real progress connecting Cape Town to the world and to Africa through a project that we're running at Westgrow. But I see what you mean by the incredible growth engine that China's built. I then happened a few weeks later to be in the USA with Minister Alan Winde and the Mayor of Cape Town and guys from Silicon Cape on a mission to talk to the film studios about bringing more productions to Cape Town, to talk to the South Africans in Silicon Valley about the emerging tech cluster we're building here. We went to IMEX in Las Vegas, along with Gary and Glenn, our hosts today, were there. They made quite a bit of money at the casino, so they can maybe buy the second round of drinks tonight. But seeing the US growth engine, just after seeing the Chinese growth engine, I was struck by how small we are and how far away we are. And people in China and the US kept saying, we love what's going on in the Cape and in South Africa and the Western Cape, but really you're very far. And when I came back after these trips, I thought, well, actually, maybe given what we have to offer here, being far is not a problem. Because the sense you get in China and the US is incredible pace of technological change and growth and movement, and it's really quite overwhelming in both of those economies. And the one thing about what we have here is the experiences offered by many of your events right across the Cape are unique. They're opportunities often to break away from the hectic pace of China and the USA, of these huge growth markets. They're bespoke, they are catering to specific tastes, catering to a sense of perhaps disconnecting in a way, being able to realize what it means to be human again. And I think that's the one thing that many of our events have in common, that you're really in touch with your humanity when you're enjoying the Cape, when you're enjoying the events that you're putting on. And I think that's becoming an increasingly rare thing globally. That was the real sense that I got coming back here. And I think it's that offer that we can make in the Cape is best identified, or best exemplified rather, by the incredible range of events that we offer in the city and this province. Really, I can see us becoming an emerging, healthy living center where people from all over this planet can disconnect from the perhaps alienating pace of life in the developed world. But I was asked today to talk about what we're doing as an agency in the event space. Westgrow has the Tourism, Trade and Investment Promotion Agencies, mandates rather, on behalf of the Western Cape Provincial Government and the City Government. So we're a government agency, 30 years old. There's 70 of us in the team at Westgrow. When we're doing the trade and investment promotion, we do it on behalf of the city and the province. But on tourism, we've got the provincial mandate. And our mandate is really focused on growing the tourism in the regions around Cape Town. We work alongside Cape Town Tourism who promotes the city of Cape Town as a tourist destination. We want to make sure that tourists that come to Cape Town get out into the whole of this province, and you'll see how we use events as a key part of achieving that geographical spread, but also making sure that people keep coming throughout the winter season, and we tackle seasonality, which is something that we play a key role in doing. I'm going to talk about 3 new strategies that we're adopting in the leisure event space that affect many of you in the room, how we're delivering on those strategies, and then I'll touch at the end on what we're doing in our convention bureau. There's some of our team from the convention bureau here today, really positioning Cape Town and the Western Cape as a global leader for the biggest meetings and conferences around the world. So, this is how Westgrow sits between these 3 objectives. We're established by a provincial government act to market the Cape economy and help promote growth in the Western Cape. Recently, Minister Alan Winde in the province identified 3 priority sectors: oil and gas, agri-processing, and tourism. And our event strategy sits squarely in that tourism space. And those 3 sectors were identified because of the huge job creation and growth potential over the medium term coming out of those sectors. And obviously, we form part of the integrated event strategy, which, as Dr. Platzky said, is now 5 years old and sets out a vision for how the Cape can be a leading global destination for events. Under Project Khaleesa, which is the project that identified those 3 strategic sectors, and as part of growing the tourism offer in the Cape, we're undertaking 3 strategies to try and boost events. The one is creating an events platform. We're trying to, as you'll see in a second, use technology to package all the events happening across the province. The second one is by sponsoring regional events to help them market and help them become part of the marketing story of the Cape of great events. And then thirdly, a new global campaign to position the Cape as a leading events destination. So unpacking the detail on each of those. The events platform is something that came about when we thought, how do we use technology to solve a data collection challenge? What we have right now is a system that's scraping Facebook for all of the event information and aggregating it on a single events platform. We are currently collecting 200 events a month that are being added to that platform, and we're confident that this will help raise the profile of all of the events across the province using technology to bring them to light and uncover the incredible potential of the opportunities that you're offering right across the Cape. It'll help for planning, it'll help tourists plan their itineraries, but it'll also help us to plan to make sure that there's a spread of event opportunities throughout the year, and it'll help us to promote the Cape as an events destination. Looking at what we do in regional event sponsorship and activation, this is the last 6 months, so April to September this year, focused over that winter period. We supported 35 events that took place in the 5 regions around the city. And we supported them in total to the tune of only 1 million rand. But the important thing is the economic impact of those events in total was 260 million. It helped get 150,000 visitors out into the regions and helped create 1,600 jobs directly on the back of those events. So I think that's probably one of the best return on investments that I've ever seen. What we're going to look into next year is taking that package and marketing it globally, positioning the Cape as an events leader around the world. We're starting the production of a campaign in January this year that will feature our signature events, that will help communicate to event organizers around the world that we're a world-class events destination, and communicate to international visitors that we're a place to come for bucket list events. We're going to launch that towards the middle of next year, and it'll be very strongly focused on digital and social media. So those are 3 new initiatives that we're undertaking as an agency on your behalf as part of the province's Project Khaleesa. We also have the Convention Bureau at Westgrow. Now, considering what they deliver for the province, not enough people know about that extraordinary small team we have sitting at the agency. They go out and promote centers like this at Century City, the CTICC, and all of our other conferencing and event space around the city and the province. They promote that for the world's largest conferences, meetings, and exhibitions. And they're competing with some huge global brands. They're competing with most of the cities who provide massive subsidies to bring these events. They're competing with a whole lot of emerging cities that are getting into the space, and more often than not, they win. They really position the Cape as a place to come to think about your business. And they bring huge value for us here in the Cape. In the last 6 months, they secured 17 bids. That's 20,000 delegates that are going to come to the Cape on the back of those bids, with an economic impact of over 250 million. Business events are important because they help to position our events, or rather our destination, in the mind of visitors who come as delegates, but then, as Dr. Platzky said, come back as tourists. They help us to position the Cape as a thought leader, as a place where you can think about your business strategies for the continent and for the country. And they really make a direct business impact when those delegates come spending money in our city. So if you look at the economic impact of the Convention Bureau and the work they've done over the last 6 months, and you add it to the economic impact of the events across the province in the last 6 months, you see R500 million of economic impact. I think you'll agree that given the extremely limited budgets that we have and the small team that we have, we're making an outsized contribution to growing the Cape economy on the back of events and business tourism. Now, the Convention Bureau is focusing on a couple of priorities as part of Project Kalisa as well. They're pushing to boost delegate attendance. One of the things that conference organizers are looking for is conferences that are really well supported. And there's a whole lot of strategies that we can adopt as a destination that help increase the number of delegates that come to a conference. We're helping to convert conference delegates into investors, helping them to see how they can grow export-focused businesses out of the Cape, making sure that there's a transfer of opportunities across sectors in the Cape. We want the benefit to also extend beyond the economy into government, into institutions, into the universities. It's all about creating a legacy. So when the event leaves, when your big conference leaves, it leaves behind a legacy in that space. And that's not something that we can do alone. It obviously requires us to operate across government, business, and the civil society in the Cape to make sure that a business event is not just bringing a short-term benefit to the city, that it's making a long-term impact. So the question is, around the room, what can you do to become part of the story? If you look at our brand new website that launched a few weeks ago, under tourism services, you'll see all of our application forms and requirements to get support for your event. Remember, as you apply, which I invite you to do, we're looking really at supporting events in the regions to help get that geographic spread. We're looking at events in the quieter winter seasons to help tackle seasonality. And our support is not about developing an event and incubating an event. Our support is about the marketing and promotion element. So we want your event, to help us promote the Cape globally as a destination that more and more tourists need to be coming to. So that's our mandate. That's what we can be helping you to do if you apply on our website. I wanted to close by just talking a little bit about what's happening generationally in my generation, and I'm not as old as my hair makes me look, but don't own anything. They're like digital nomads. They travel around the world with a laptop doing business from wherever they like. I've got friends who are starting businesses in crazy cities around the continent, in places that their parents probably didn't even know existed. They're nomadic. They're not interested in acquiring assets and possessions. They're interested in acquiring experiences. And I think these people are just really the thin end of the wedge. I think they're a sign of what's coming. As generations change, as younger people become bigger players in the economy, they are going to reject old ideas about owning assets, about building wealth, and they're going to look to build experiences. And that's where all of us around the room in the Cape can tap into the economic potential of that generation. I think what it means is that us in this room are really positioned for the future growth of the Cape. Increasingly, the experiences that you offer are going to be the things that young people around the world are prepared to travel for and prepared to spend money on. That means they're going to come here and spend their money. They're going to help us create jobs here. And I think it means that you're positioned right at the cusp of the growth trajectory of our city, our province, and our country. Thank you very much.